video is to give you some background to hutchies, give you some options for different types of hutchies, and then give you a bit of a practical demonstration on a couple of hutchies that you could use. So first of all, hutchies are a really great option for lightweight camping, backpacking, hiking, bushwalking, anything where you don't want to carry much weight. Pretty much all you need is some kind of fly sheet. A tarp can even work all right, depending on what eyelets it's got on it. And then you can use some sticks that you find out wherever you are to help you lift the hutchie off the ground. You also need some guide wires and pegs, depending on what type of setup you want to do. Depends on how many you need of each. So to give you some options of types of hutchies, the first one that I'm going to show you on the screen is the Cave. This is a really popular option. It's pretty bomber, something that I've used in the past, and something that we often use on the 9 at Scotch program, because it protects you from most sides from the wind, from 3 sides, and then leaves you one side open. So you can direct it depending on where the wind or the rain is coming from. Great option for when it's wet and windy. There's another picture of the Cave from a different angle. I'll set this one up in a video and show you exactly how I do it, just to make it a little bit easier for you, because it is a popular one to use. Another option, and this is a really basic option, great if you don't have much kit, is the A-frame. You can use this with a couple of walking poles, as I have done here, a couple of sticks, and some pegs. Good if the weather's nice, but not so good if it isn't. A big area on one side to catch the wind, and also 2 open sides. If you do have a bigger hutchie or fly sheet though, or tarp, and you want to get a group under, this could be a good option for that. The wind shed I've never used. It looks a bit more complicated, but potentially something worth having a crack at if you're practicing putting up your hutchies and you want to try something different. Another one that I'll show you on a video is the closed end A-frame. This is one that I've used a bit in the past as well. I don't think it's quite as bomber as the Cave, but it gives you a bit more room at the head end potentially. So if you've got a bigger tarp, you could use this. You can see it's quite high. You might be able to cook out the front, and then put your feet down the end that doesn't have as much room. A good option if you're using this one, because your sleeping bag might touch the fly and have some moisture transfer through, would be to have a bivvy bag as well. So there's some options for building hutchies. I'll now show you how to do a couple of them from scratch. Okay, so this is the Cave. What you'll need to build the Cave is 7 or 8 pegs, 3 sticks. I've just got some bits of wood here. You could use anything you can find pretty much. Something from the environment, something from around home will work perfectly fine. These ones are about a metre and a half high. So that's probably what you need. They don't need to go into the ground, they just need to be standing on the ground and be solid enough to hold up your hutchie. You also need a hutchie, a tarp, some piece of material, and some guide wires that can come off the side. All right, so to start with for the Cave, I just need to peg it in to start with. So I'm going to peg the 4 corners to begin with. You can see that once I've pegged it, I've actually left a little bit of slack in the middle, because I want to be able to lift that up so I can fit in underneath. Like with all hutchie setups, it's going to take a little bit of adjusting. You can't peg it and leave it that way unless you get really lucky. So we'll adjust as we go. So I've pegged the 4 corners. The next step is I like to put the 2 front sticks on. So you'll need to know how to do a clove hitch. This is the knot that's required to tie the stick on to the hutchie. A good place to find that out is animatedknots.com. Okay, so what I'm going to do is tie my stick as close as I can to the tarp. If I come out here, it's going to be much more wobbly, not hold up as high. So I'm going to tie a clove hitch nice and close. I'll then peg that one in. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my two front poles on and pegged in. I can adjust the clove hitch up or down depending on how much space I need. Obviously for the cave, the wind's going to be coming from behind the hutchie here and my access is from the front. Once I've done those two and pegged them out, I need to put the same on the back in the middle to give a bit more rise to the centre of the hutchie. So I'm going to use this back guide wire that you can see here and peg it out toward the back. So you can see my hutchie is pretty much set up, ready to go. I might need to tweak it a little bit, so move the pegs just to get it exactly right. Cool, pretty happy with that. Some good tension. I've got reasonable height to get in underneath. Final thing to do, if you wanted to put a couple of extra pegs at the back, that could be handy. And then I can lay out my bivvy bag and my sleeping bag. All done. So just to give you a bit of a close-up view of what this hutchie looks like. This is the cave, remember? You can see my clove hitch knots on the sticks here. And then all I've done is gone straight down to a little loop. You could use a double figure of 8 to create a loop if you like, or an overhand knot into the peg. You can see in under here is my bivvy bag setup. If you wanted to have more space, you could potentially use a guide wire on top to lift up one of the corners, but the idea is that it's just enough room for one person to be in under there in their sleeping bag, in their bivvy bag. If we come around the back, you can see there's reasonable tension on the hutchie itself. Obviously pegs can adjust that. These extra pegging points back here could be used if the wind potentially could get under there, so if you peg them down, that would give you a little bit extra. And my back pole here can be a little bit flimsy if you're not careful, so it's worth tying that one down nice and taut as well, or getting it a little bit into the ground. And that's the cave. Okay, so next up we've got the A-frame. For this hutchie, you'll need 1 stick and 6 pegs as a minimum. A couple extra could be handy as well. The A-frame's another good option for if the weather is windy and wet. So like the cave, there's only one entrance, so one way in and out, and the rest of the sides are pegged down to keep you out of the weather. I think this one's potentially a little bit less robust than the cave, but may give you a little bit more room at the head end if you're going to be in it for a bit longer period of time. So let's put it up and see what it looks like. First of all, we're going to take 1 peg and put it down in the middle at one end of the hutchie. Next, I'm going to attach my pole to the opposite end using a clove hitch and then peg it down. I have actually extended the guide wire that's at the end that I'm going to put the pole on. You could use a double fisherman's knot to do this, or re-thread through a loop if that's easier. Okay, next step, peg the other 2 front corners in. I always find with this hutchie that it takes a little bit more adjustment and a bit of tweaking, but the next stage is to peg the back 2 corners in. Once I've done that, I want to tweak it a little bit more because at the moment it's not super tight. I think I could maybe create a bit more room in the entrance. Okay, so you can see the higher I peg, I tie my clove hitch around the post in the front here, potentially the more room I create, but it's a balance of the size of your hutchie or your tarp and the amount of guide wire that you've got. So you've just got to tweak it, play around with it and see what works. Okay, so let's have a little close up on the A-frame. You can see that I've pegged it on both sides here at the front, and then I've tied my clove hitch on the stick that I've got. I would like that clove hitch to be a bit higher if possible, but that's going to cause me a few issues with closing up my entrance the higher I go, so that'll have to work for this situation. If we look in here, you can see there's plenty of room at the head end of this hutchie setup,
but as you move down toward the back, it's definitely getting smaller and smaller. And if you're in there with a sleeping bag, the hutchie is going to be touching on your sleeping bag, which with condensation or rain could cause you a few issues around moisture. If you were in a bivy bag, that would solve your issue because they're waterproof, and that would help out a lot. There is potentially one more solution, which I'll show you as we walk around, which might help with that height at your feet end. I did originally extend this guide wire out, but didn't need it. If you had a bigger fly sheet or hutchie, and you could create a bigger entrance, then you might need it a bit more extended. You could then go a bit higher on that front stake too. As we move around, you can see I've only used the pegs at the front and the back. If you did want to put a couple extra on, this would be the place to do it on the sides. That would give you a bit more wind protection and stop stuff getting in under there if it was a windy day or a windy night. Just come around the back. This is what I was talking about. Here's your possible extra solution for the feet end. Might help a bit if you use that middle guide wire. You pulled it back and had another stake or another stick at the back. That would create some more room for you, especially at the feet end. So it could be worthwhile thinking about it if you've got the kit. As we come around, again, you'd want a couple of pegs on this side if you had a couple of extras, and then move back around to the front. So that's the A-frame.